I addressed some of this last week, in which I spoke of what was then a story that had broken over the prior weekend. We had some comments from some other county officials in other counties. And of course, I spoke very forthrightly. I quoted from Matthew in the Bible about our belief in this administration that we need to work with the federal government and the city of New York government to try to deal with this issue. Those comments have gotten some positive comment and quite a bit of negative comment. I recognize when you go on social media, people are welcome to express their opinion. It is a free country and you're entitled to your opinions. But I remember one comment that stood out where somebody says that the immigrants coming to this country are destroying America. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, the writer has an opinion and he's absolutely wrong. What is destroying America is anger and hatred. Now, you don't have to agree with that, and I'm sure some of you who see this will be offended by my saying this, but I believe this to be true, and I said so last week. Anger and hatred destroys America because the principle of America's founding was based on a sense of equality and opportunity for everybody, not just for some people, not just for me, but not you. Now, the point that I made last week, and I want to amplify it this week, is that this is not just sympathy for people. This is also married to pragmatic action. And as we stand here this day, at the moment of this interview, we do not yet have any of these migrant individuals who have been placed in any facility in Westchester County. There was quite a bit of discussion about a location in Yonkers that has not come to pass. And the city of New York is still trying to deal with the fact that the immigrant issue has been brought to their doorstep by the governor of Texas. I repeat what I said a week ago, which is Westchester already went through 4 to 6 months of housing 1,000 immigrant children in the year 2018. That was created by the Donald Trump administration, and there were 4 locations in Yonkers, in Irvington, in Dobbs Ferry, and in Somers, where these individuals were already housed in Westchester County. And when that happened, there was almost no public outcry. Now, of course, we have public outcry because we're a divided society, and we're divided not just on philosophy, but we're divided on politics. And every opportunity that Party A has to criticize Party B, they do. And if I go into Nextdoor, I see plenty of criticism of the things that I believe in. But I believe in these things. I've been on this planet almost 70 years, and I've learned some things, and they're not shaken, in fact, by somebody being critical. I listen, I absorb the fact that someone is upset, but I know that it's fear and anger that's driving those comments. It's not a rational understanding of what our challenges are. But let me talk to you about what the rational challenges are. We don't have any migrants placed here at this point in time. If and when we do, there are some things that we will be asking for the federal and the state government to respond to, which we think are practical ways to manage this situation. Number one, we're going to be calling for a satellite immigration court in Westchester County. Why? Because every one of these people that are here are not here illegally. You might say that they're illegal, but that's not how they're here. They're here because the United States government, in long standing, has had a policy where a person can come here and ask for asylum because of the circumstances in their home country. And then that process is adjudicated by a court, by an immigration judge, and is determined whether or not they're granted asylum here in the United States. If they are housed awaiting the adjudication of that case, they are here legally. And while they're here legally awaiting that, we now have the governor of Texas determining that he can't handle the burden himself, so he's going to busload X thousand people to New York City. New York City can't handle all of it, and they need some help from outside and around him. So we believe that there should be a satellite field immigration court established when there are any established housing in Westchester County, and for the surrounding counties as well, establish an immigration court. Now, we're told that they don't have enough judges. Fine. The executive authority in Washington should be used to impanel as many judges as is necessary to handle these cases immediately. That is a concrete step that will move the process along. We cannot have people waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years in a motel, in a hotel, in a tent city along the border of Texas. We need to have these cases adjudicated quickly, and we're going to argue that that type of process should happen in the backyard, anywhere where those people may be housed, because the housing has to be temporary. It is not intended for it to be permanent housing. We don't accept it as permanent housing. We accept that here's a crisis. We want to respond to the crisis, and in that crisis, we want to make sure that there is a process by which these people can be adjudicated. And if the federal government does not have enough immigration judges, then they should recruit judges, retired judges, go through a training program, month, 2 months, whatever it takes, so that the judges who may have had other legal experience can then sit as immigration judges and go through all of these cases that have accumulated over time. This is a sensible, practical thing to do, and I would argue that having one of those courts in Westchester County would also apply for any of those that are housed in Rockland County, Orange County, Putnam County, Dutchess County, Ulster County, or nearby counties, in which case we are providing a benefit so that those people are also not housed here over a long, indiscriminate amount of time. The second thing, we want to see the federal government through the Department of Commerce or whatever entity it is, U.S. Department of Labor, work with the New York State Department of Labor, and we in the county government will assist as well, to make sure that asylum seekers have the opportunity to work, and to work in those jobs where we most need individuals working, to track them, to make sure they don't slip out of the system, but that while they are here, they are not just staying here day after day idly, that they can be put to work in numerous jobs that are available. The people who are coming here are asserting that they want to work. They don't come here looking for the handout. They come here looking for the opportunity to work. We have, at this stage of the game, almost every restaurant that I pass by has need for waiters and cooks and busboys, and we have that vacancy. They are part of our current workforce. Young people in our current workforce have not sought those jobs out. Those jobs remain open. We want to make sure that working through the federal and the state labor departments, that we match an individual who has the discretionary time and wants to work with a job and have them pay taxes on the work that they create, gain what resources they can from that work during the period of time that they are here waiting to seek asylum. We do not want them to be here idly where other issues could develop. We want to make sure that the federal housing and urban development and the state's housing and community resources work together in the more permanent housing situation. This is difficult to do. Affordable housing is at a premium here for all sorts of people in our society. But if the federal government has not yet come up with a game plan to handle the migrants who have come over the border and seeking asylum, then we must do something to do better than just having them stay in a hotel, again, for an indiscriminate period of time. This is the challenge of the federal government. So we are extending the hand of friendship, extending the hand of working together, but we're doing it with a practical mindedness, and that's an important part. And for those people who may have fear, but the fear isn't baked into an ideological cake, which is impossible to change. If night after night you believe that something is evil, and that's what you believe, you don't care really what I'm saying right now. But for those people that are concerned, and they say, how are you going to manage this thing? This is part of how you manage it. Westchester County's efforts with policing will work side by side with local governments. Wherever migrants are placed, where they may be placed, we will work with that local government to ensure that there's proper police presence so that these fears of crime, these fears of things happening, can be allayed by our actual policing work. We have a very professional police force. They're capable of handling themselves under any circumstances. We've done so with minimal problems over the course of an extended period of time. We can do that again working with those local police departments that are professional as well all over Westchester County to provide that kind of safety and security. And the county is ready to work through issues of translation services, necessary transportation, some recreational facilities and services that can be accessed to, none of which takes away from our residential base their opportunity to access transportation or recreational services, that these things can work together in harmony. The question is, in this country now, are we prepared to lead and solve problems? Or do we think it is sufficient to just express our anger and let that be our public policy? And there are people who do believe that. There are people who will cultivate votes by merely expressing anger and whipping up anger. And I see it. I understand it. I've been involved in this business for a long time. I know what it's like when people get afraid and when they're furious. But as I said last week, so I say again this week, there are larger issues at hand that we have to be mindful of. And those larger issues at hand come from things that are spiritual, not just earthly and secular. But we have a secular responsibility, adjudication, work, police protection, and the logistics of those individuals so that their time here is a productive time, and that if they in fact are going to be in the United States of America for some extended period of time beyond that, when asylum may be granted, we will go from there. Does anybody begrudge those people who are in Afghanistan, who escaped Afghanistan at the last moment before that country fell to the Taliban. Does anybody begrudge the right for those people to seek a life, to leave Kabul and come to the United States? They helped us there during the 20 years we were there. Does anybody begrudge the right of the people in Kosovo who were subject to ethnic cleansing 30 years ago when the war ravaged those countries in Montenegro and in the areas next to Albania and Serbia? Does anyone begrudge their right to seek asylum? Do any of us really understand what's happening today in Guatemala, or Venezuela, Honduras, and Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Mexico? Is it our lack of knowledge of those conditions that makes us inured to one set of problems and then sensitive to another set of problems? I drew the analogy from the immigration of the 1800s, and I had people tell me, oh, no, it's not the same. It's the same. It's people who are poor, who are oppressed, who want to have a chance at a life. We have to shape that. We're not accepting people blindly. We're not accepting large numbers of people blindly, but we are showing a practical mindedness. What do you want your government to be? Do you want it to be expression of your anger, an expression of your hatred? Fine. That's what you want your government to be. That's not the America I read about as a young boy. That's not the America of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, which said we are trying to form a more perfect union. This is where we put our public policy down. Time will tell if we are wise or we are foolish, but we are steadfast in believing that there is an American ideal that is higher than our anger of the moment. And that is the policy that we're going to pursue. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.